Yeah.
Oh, it's even more zoomed in.
Oh.
So you're going to need to push the laptop back a bit. This is fine. This is just how these live events go. So welcome everyone who's joining us for CSF's live discussion on our upcoming production of Hamlet. I'm joined with Elliot, who's our lovely director, and Cal, who'll be playing Horatio. Catherine.
Yeah, I'm going to shovel
more. There you go.
all I
I
can
will
focus
move
on.
back. There we go. You're just going to have to lean in. That's fine.
Oh,
We're good.
I'll speak here.
That's good. That looks natural.
Yeah.
Really natural. So if you do have any questions about Hamlet, please do pop them in the comments. We really want to hear what you want to know about this upcoming production that is taking place on the 17th and 18th of November and the 24th and the 25th of November, all at St Thomas's Hall. We're very hard at work, as you can see. I made the mistake of applying fake blood to something without gloves because I got impatient. So I'm hoping that will be gone by our run on Monday.
It won't be.
No.
It will be. It's gonna be. Oh, I just will not show my hands. Hamlet has no palms to his hands, like a sailor. So the big thing about this production of Hamlet is we do have two Hamlets who will also be alternating as Laertes. So myself will be playing Hamlet on the Saturday performances, which is the 18th and 25th, and Alex Rose will be playing Hamlet on the Friday performances, which is the 17th and the 24th. So, first question for you, Elliot. Two Hamlets. Why?
Well, I think the biggest reason I did two Hamlets is because I've directed Hamlet before, back in 2019, and I wanted more of a challenge. Yeah, more of a challenge than just directing Hamlet. But also, community opportunities to play Hamlet, to perform in Hamlet, not just as Hamlet, but also all the varieties of characters, don't happen very often. The only Hamlet I'm aware of in this part of the world in like the last 5-10 years is the other production we did. I don't think anyone else has done it that I'm aware of. So it's a really good opportunity to let two actors tackle such a meaty part. Yes, two Hamlets part of it. You know this.
Count them.
Count them too.
Technically three, because you've got dead Hamlet.
So three Hamlets if you count the ghost. But I always call the ghost and not old Hamlet. But yeah, because it's a challenge and because it's an opportunity to get more talented people to be able to play Hamlet, because it's not done very often because it's such a challenging play and part.
So what is it like directing two different Hamlets?
It is a challenge because both the actors, both Alex and Charlotte, are coming at it from different angles as both actors and performers. But also, there's the fact that we have to rehearse every scene twice, which means everybody apart from the two people playing Hamlet are twice as rehearsed on every scene as the Hamlets. You know, the leading character has actually got half as much rehearsal as anybody else for their part, which, now I'm putting that into words, sounds terrifying. But it's a lot of fun as well, because it means I don't have to make one decision for a particular scene and stick to it. I can make two decisions, or we can make two decisions, and we can have two different versions of the same scene in the same play on separate nights. Which means if people do come, and people should come to both productions of Hamlet, or both versions of Hamlet, they will see, in some scenes only slightly different, in some scenes radically different versions of the same text. Because we are using the exact same text, there's no sort of differences in cutting for the two Hamlets.
I mean, that depends on what lines the actors forget each night, but...
Well, we don't tell them, generally.
Of course, we don't forget lines, we are professionals. And of course, if you do want to see both Hamlets, you can come see a Friday performance and a Saturday performance for the low price of £15 for both tickets. So our standard price for tickets is £12.50. That means it's only £2.50 more expensive for two shows. So we really do recommend taking us up on that ticket offer.
And you can get a glass of wine in London for that amount of money.
Yeah, we bought 2 glasses of wine in London for £25 yesterday. So honestly, this is a much better deal. You're getting a lot more bang for your buck.
Yeah.
So, Cal, you're playing Horatio, Hamlet's best friend. Probably the character that, I don't know if has the most interaction with Hamlet, but has a lot of very specific interaction with Hamlet. So what is it like acting against two Hamlets?
I mean, I think it's great because it really accentuates the sort of joyously live qualities of like acting and performance. And I mean, it is a very reactionary role. I mean, so many roles in this play outside of Hamlet, very much it's Hamlet is driving it forward, and then you're reacting to whatever Hamlet is putting out there. So it's so much fun to go through it each time and sort of discover something new, or find some subtext here or some subtext here, or just other things being highlighted. But it's great. It's really good fun because, yeah, the different sort of stimulus that you get and then get to react to, it really does heighten it. And I think as an actor, it's great because you get to explore so many different avenues in sort of one overarching performance. It's great. I'm over-rehearsed, but, you know, that's me.
Gotta be said. And of course, a big thing that is different that I certainly have noticed is the blocking is very different depending on which Hamlet you're getting. Do you find that a struggle, or do you enjoy that?
Oh, I love it. It's fantastic because it's so, yeah, you don't really know what's going to happen, because if it was just one Hamlet, you very much get an idea of this character, and when it evolves in the same way. But with these two branching paths, it's great, you know, and then you, in your character, you feel very different things depending on what's been highlighted, what's being emphasised in each of the Hamlets. I mean, even regardless of performances, just the gender of the Hamlets really changes so much of like how you feel as a character, what my friend relationship is to Hamlet, and it's lovely. It's a very exciting experience. Yes. That's right.
Have you ever in the rehearsal process gone for a bit and you're like, no wait, this isn't for this Hamlet, this is blocking for a different Hamlet?
I think so, yes. Yeah, it has happened. But I mean, also the joy is obviously if someone's playing Hamlet, they're going to be quite a good actor already, so they're quite good at reacting differently. Well, until this performance, but it's quite fun because it's yeah, as I said, I think just the live element, which is what I think people love about acting and performing, is just the fact that it can all change and it can be completely different, and you can go down so many different avenues, and it's great. It's great to just go on stage and not really know exactly what's going to happen, even if you know a Hamlet, you know, it might have been a while since you've done that Hamlet, you might be more used to another one. So it just keeps you on your toes, you know, you don't get comfortable, which is the last thing you want really as an actor. So it's great.
I've had a question from Barnaby, why not 3 Hamlets? Because we're not that insane. We're quite insane.
Next time, though.
Though there be madness, there is method in it. So 3
Next time 3 Hamlets, then 4,
Then
then
4.
5.
Then 100. Insufficient. What does that mean?
Don't know.
Well, let's hope this still goes on. But if you are having any issues seeing us, please do let us know. So the setting. So we have moved Hamlet out of the 1600s, time that, actually I don't know when Hamlet is set. 1600s?
I think it's contemporary.
I always assumed it's contemporary. I actually have no idea. But we have taken it, so it's less contemporary. It's set in 1969, specifically 1969. So Elliot, why did you choose that as the setting?
Hamlet as a play of transition. It's a transition between both the sort of dead Hamlet to Claudius, but it's also the transition between the old and the young. It's a transitionary period for a lot of the characters, but also the late 60s, specifically 1969, is a transitionary period from the free-flowing sex and drugs and rock and roll of the 60s to the 70s, which was slightly more conservative with a small c. They were more, they were less loosey-goosey, so it's a very transitionary period. It's also a period with a lot of different sort of styles and genres of art and culture and fashion, which means there's a lot to play with in terms of costuming, props, scenery, music, etc. There's also there's a lot of interesting stuff to be looked at the end of the 60s, because it really was the end of an era. If you look at Withnail and I, a big part of the film is the fact that it's set in 1969, and that at the end of the film they quote Hamlet. It's the last line of the film as the two friends part, and it is coming up to the end of the decade, and it's sort of this finality of time, I guess.
Yeah, Richard E. Grant doing an amazing what a piece of work is Old Man. Though he paraphrases the hell out of that speech when he does it.
Well, Withnail's something to be an amazing actor.
So what about your acting, Cal? How does the setting of 69, how does that change how you're playing Horatio?
I think it's really great because, as an actor you like to do research, you like to sort of obviously get in the headspace. I mean, some people talk about what's your character eat? What do they listen to? And all these questions. And you can get into that, obviously, in a contemporary, setting of Shakespeare. But when you go to something like 1969, I mean, it's great because you can look at so much like visual evidence. You can listen to different music from the time. You can think about, what does my character? Is my character a Beatles fan or a Kinks fan? There's a lot of different things you can think into it. And just the 69 context is great. Horatio, I've sort of almost based him on sort of thinking like a yuppie sort of almost idea, like sort of very beat poet into sort of Jerry Rubin-esque sort of vibe, like a little bit. But then mixed with, again, when you make it all 1969, you think, okay, so Wittenberg 1969 wasn't quite the intellectual, but then you go, how about Oxbridge 1969? And you sort of get an interesting... it's great. And also just for costuming, like I chose personally, I wanted to wear a bit more browns, which is a bit more into the 70s, sort of almost like a little bit more looking ahead. But it's great, just the sort of touchstones that you get to go past and you get to like pick up on and then work into the performance. It really influences it, and it makes it sort of a little bit more accessible to the actor and a little bit more freedom to bring in your own influences and sort of bring in more modern influences in a way. So it really does transform the character a lot, it's just, from the costume to the unsaid theory. It's great. It's a really, fun experience. I
need to know, though, what is Horatio's preferred? Is it Beatles, Kinks, Stones?
Oh, he's totally Kinks. He thinks Kinks are, they're underrated. He's very much a Village Green preservationist, big time. I think so. I think in 1969, it's sort of the end of the Beatles. Maybe they're a bit too mainstream for him. They're a bit.
It's very that does seem very Horatio.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Basically a proto-hipster. Yeah, it's basically Horatio. Yeah.
So, what did you bring out in the production that was from '69 in particular? So, we're going to talk about the music in a minute, but what about the set design done by the wonderful Gareth Winters, CSF favourite? And excellent. Quite minimalist designs.
Yes, with very vibrant, bright colours. So we've not got that much set. We have 2 chairs, a bench, and an easel, but they're all in very bright purples and reds and greens, and they're quite very striking. Which in the church hall we have these wonderful, in inverted commas, large orange and sort of yellowy curtains. They're very, very vibrant and bright, which frame the stage really nicely. But then we have the clash of this sort of more vibrant but not necessarily brighter, but darker, with greens and reds and purples. I think we mentioned purple, and a coffin, which I think is also purple. I can't remember off the top of my head. But they're all it's going to clash a little bit, which is a sort of big part of the 60s, is clashing vibrant colours. So that is what affects the set, and it also means it's going to be really striking to look at. It's going to be something a bit different to what we've done in the past with our sets.
And what about the costuming? So can you pick out any particular characters that will have like interesting costuming?
Yeah, so Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, for a start, they're both played by women, which is unusual, and again we very firmly set that they are a couple, that they are in a relationship. And so they have a very interesting dynamic in terms of costume as well as interpersonally. The 2 actors are fantastic. Guildenstern has quite a vibrant, bright outfit, and then Guildenstern has a sort of more dark academia. She's got a little dark green flowing skirt and things like that, which also define the characters quite instantly when you see them. That one of them is this sort of bright, vibrant, alive person, and the other one is a bit more of a drab, frumpy isn't the right word, but you know what I mean. Sort of,
it's very stylised.
It's very stylised, yeah. And then we have Gertrude, who is dressed in a sort of, because obviously Gertrude is older, so she and Claudius is older. They are stuck in a bit earlier than the 60s, and she's sort of dressed like a reject from the set of Sunset Boulevard. But it works because, again, it's that transitionary period where people were still wearing fashions that were out of date, especially if they were older, and it's that contrast between the young and the old.
Yeah, I think the costumes are really striking. I think we went to a lot of effort to really keep those, not just the style, but the cuts. So it was actually one of my criticisms of your last time you did Hamlet, is a lot of people wearing trousers that were skinny cut. And that really annoyed me because that is not a cut that you would see, trust me, in the 70s and the 60s. It was wide leg cuts, flowing skirts that had a very specific shape to it. So when we worked on the costumes this time, it was very much, we don't want the skinny trousers, skinny jeans, tapered trousers, because that just wasn't the style we were going for.
And they're bloody hard to find.
Well, they're coming back in fashion
Well, they're coming
actually.
back
So
in fashion
we did manage to find some good stuff on our travels. But yeah, I think we've really heightened it this time, so it's very firmly set. You can look at some of the things. I know exactly what they're trying to do with that costume. So music in particular, you're using Scott Walker, and these are all songs that he would have released in 1969 or by 1969?
By 1969. So Scott Walker was part of the Walker Brothers, who were a manufactured pop group in the early to mid 60s, and then he broke away. I can't remember what the other two weren't Walkers either, and they weren't brothers. They were just three blokes that were put together by the music industry. But Scott Walker was the vocals, and I think he wrote some of the songs, and then he decided to go on and have a sort of weird eclectic solo career. And if you look at actually the album covers and what he used to dress in, he wore the sorts of things that we are dressing our Hamlets in. He wore black turtlenecks, he wore sunglasses, etc. But he published 4 albums. Did he publish an album? Yeah, he released 4 albums in between 1967 and 1969 called Scott, Scott 2, Scott 3 and Scott 4. All the imagination was saved for the music. And I have all the music within the show is taken from those 4 albums. A lot of the songs, or not a lot of the songs, one of his biggest influences was a French musician called Jacques Brel, who was, I can't remember if he died or was retired by that point, but he had very much stopped making music by the mid-60s, I think. And he was, but his music was just sort of reaching us. And so a lot of his songs that we use in the show are either like him covering songs of Jacques Brel or reimagining. One of the songs, "Raining Today," "It's Raining Today" is an inspired piece of Jacques Brel. But it's the reason I did it is because in a script of Hamlet that I've got from somewhere, there's a picture of, I want to say it's Peter Stormare playing Hamlet, and he's wearing a black turtleneck and sunglasses, and I thought, oh, that's a really cool image. And I paired it with Scott Walker, and then it's all started to fall together. And also the last time I did it, 2019, Scott Walker died the week before we went on.
Wow, there you go.
I don't think it was because of us.
You heard what we were doing, and it's like, no, I'm not going to live to see that. So, Kat, what do you think about the music, acting alongside it?
I think it's lovely because it's so evocative, music. I mean, it has so much. I mean, it adds so much to a scene, and also having music, especially from one artist, where you get to sort of bring it home in a way and listen to it on your own, ruminate on it, really think about it. It really does help. And again, it just place it in that time. It's great. I mean, a couple of the songs I listen to when I'm like walking to work or walking back. I've tried to learn a couple on guitar, but he's a very good instrumentationalist. That can't be a word. Instrument man.
He played a music man.
Yeah, he was good at the music. He was a good music man. But it's great. Yeah, it's just it adds so much in many ways, and it just feels great as soon as you sort of hear this music. And I mean, a lot of Scott Walker we're using, it's very beautiful, but it's also quite, I mean, fits of Hamlet. Beautiful, but also kind of a little bit like chilling and a little bit eerie.
Haunting is the word I'd use.
Yeah, haunting, yes. Sorry, director. Haunting. It's haunting, definitely haunting. No, it's lovely, it's great, and yeah, it's very nice, yeah. Like I've made some playlists of like 60s music, again, lots of Kinks, not so much Beatles, because that's Horatio's style. But it's lovely, it's great, and it just, it's such an evocative thing that it just, without even thinking, it sort of enters your subconscious, and you can just add it to the layers of your performance. It's lovely, and it's good rediscovering Scott Walker. I haven't listened to him in years, and now I'm listening to him a little bit more.
I'd never heard of Scott Walker before, and I have to say I really do love the music. He had a comment from Barnaby. What does that say?
There was a Danish king visited to the court of James. He got drunk a lot. I don't know what that's in reference to, but it's a fun fact.
And if anyone else out there has any questions or comments, do please put them in the comment section. We really do want to hear if there's any questions you have about this production. Very unique production, I think. This must have been done before. Has this been done before?
Well, Hamlet.
Yes. Has anyone ever done Hamlet?
I don't think
I don't
so.
think never
I've
done
heard of a
Hamlet.
performance.
I don't. I
but
hear some
don't
I
myths.
think The Simpsons did an episode based on it.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
I think it's right.
It's one of his less popular works, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's overlooked often.
I thought it was very brave of him to get the rights from Disney to adapt The Lion King, to be honest. I thought, how did he manage that?
Whereas I can't move for versions of King John.
Oh, God, yeah, that's...
King John productions anywhere I go.
Gilda Lily comes from King John. It's like the only famous line in it, because it's not a good play. Hamlet, of course, is an excellent play. No, I mean double Hamlet. Is that...
Yes, it has been done. It was done. I can't remember who was in it, but they doubled the roles. They didn't double Hamlet and Laertes, which I thought was interesting. I think they doubled the roles of Hamlet and the Ghost.
Oh.
Presumably because there's a lot less for them both to learn, because the Ghost only really has one theme with long lines.
I don't think so. I think the Ghost has more to learn than... Because Laertes has nothing.
Well, in an uncut production,
Well, I suppose...
we cut a lot of Act 1, Scene 3, where there is Hamlet, where Laertes has an incredibly long speech,
Oh, yeah, just
which
repeats
I
himself, doesn't
cut before I did the first time, and then I cut even more when we did it the second time, to make it much more bearable, but where he's just lecturing Ophelia on what not to do with Hamlet, which is and a nowadays thing, which is one of those interesting things about the doubling that we've got. When Alex plays Laertes, that speech comes across as quite patronising and misogynistic. But when you do it, because you're a woman, it comes across as much more sisterly, and so there's a very difference in feel to that scene. Of course, all three of you end up dead, so it doesn't really matter.
Who doesn't die in Hamlet?
Horatio.
It's literally
Yeah,
only
yeah,
you.
yeah.
I won't spoilers.
Oh,
Spoilers
yes,
for
yeah.
the play. You know,
Yeah.
I won't tell you how it ends.
400-year-old play.
Don't look it up on Wikipedia. Just come and be surprised.
Do you die at the end?
I can't tell you. It's a
Ooh,
spoiler.
I'll have to buy my own tickets.
I think
Yeah.
she gets trampled by lions. But
Yes,
Don't
exactly.
quote me on that.
So the wildebeest, Elliot. God. Don't even know. Well, you're talking about Lion King. You don't even know.
Our
basic
Lion
plot
King live
points.
stream will be immediately following this live stream.
Our discussion was Mufasa a good king?
Yes, and then the White Lion. I can't remember. I'm doing.
Oh yeah, the White Lion, because
Yeah.
that's what it's based on.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
yeah.
rip-off of that and adaptation of Hamlet. But yes, no, we're not going to talk about that because we don't want to get sued by
But
Disney.
we will be starting a podcast.
Well, our ramblings.
Guys, this is great. just people going at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just talk about random.
If you want to hear our thoughts about Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead / The Lion King 3, Timon and Pumbaa, don't.
It's actually not a bad sequel. It's okay. It's not as good as Simba's Pride, but anyway, we're not talking about The Lion King. Stop distracting me. If you have any questions on The Lion King, though, do let us know. So, you talked about Laertes, and one of the questions I did want to ask is, what is the biggest difference between the Hamlets? I'll bump this to you first, and I'm going to bump the question to you, Cal. So you get a bit of time to think.
Yeah, that's
ruminate, yeah.
I feel bad for myself because I don't have time to think. I'm now just filling time. Well, there's the obvious difference in that you are different genders, and that does affect the way, not necessarily the way you play things, but it does affect the way that other people play off you. So we have a female Guildenstern and a female Rosencrantz, and so in the scene where Hamlet is manically trying to annoy them, I guess, it's very confrontational when Alex does it, but it's much more playful and light and wind-uppy. Like your Hamlet is a wind-up merchant, his Hamlet is more aggressively annoying, I guess. Is a big, for example. It's also interesting in a way. So, for example, in the funeral of Ophelia, spoilers for those who haven't seen it, Laertes and Hamlet have a very one-sided fight in the grave of Ophelia, and Laertes is choking Hamlet. Now, when Alex does that to you, as when he's Laertes, it doesn't make sense, but it's obviously there's a one-sided power dynamic there because he is taller and bigger and stronger than you. But when you do it to Hamlet, when you're Laertes and you're strangling Hamlet, it comes across that he's making an active choice not to try and stop you, which is quite a fascinating mental process to be going through. There's also the other biggest difference that I would say is that one of the ways that the way that we're showing, well, the sort of big conceit of the production is that the way Hamlet's madness manifests is that after he sees the ghost, he starts to go crazy, and the way he goes crazy is that he starts seeing a room full of people watching him. He figures out or believes that he is in a play.
The
and
fourth
wall shatters, and nobody apart from him ever talks to the audience. It's just him or her, and they are seeing their audience. And the way that you and Alex do that is subtly different, but also quite radically different. But you both look at the audience, but you look at them in different ways. I'm not going to say which is which because people have to pay and come see it. But one of them is they make the audience part of the production, and you draw them in and make it sort of a togetherness. And the other one is a bit more performative. And look at me, look what I'm doing. I know how plays work. I know how this is going to end. I know that my name is on the poster and I can't die, or at least I'm not going to die till the end. So nothing really matters. That would be those are the two biggest differences for me.
Now, what about you, Kel? What do you think the biggest difference is between those Hamlets?
God. I mean, it's so fascinating because obviously the way that mental health manifests in men and in women, and the way that it's deciphered between a man and a woman are wildly different. So just building the gender point, it feels very different even with the same intention. How you're reading these moments. I mean, again, not to spoil, but there's something about the ending where Hamlet is almost choosing to face the music, as it were, and is very much standing up to see their end. It does have a slightly, just naturally sort of carries a gender-based different ideas to me. With a male Hamlet, you sort of almost have this it's a bit toxic masculinity, but that's sort of the noble death, the hero's death, and it is sadder and stranger and interesting, a female perspective on that. But then, as I said, the thing is, it's so reactionary playing against Hamlet, and especially in the role of Horatio, you almost are a caregiver for that person at a certain point, and you sort of act as almost a carer for them, and so it's almost like the minutiae is what really changes so much. You can have the same relationship with whether it's male Hamlet, female Hamlet, Charlotte and Alex. It's still, that's my best friend that I see on stage when I'm at Horatio. But just those small little details, that's the beauty of it, that both actors totally get the text and totally understand what they're doing, and in the mechanics and the form, they understand how to put it forward. But just these little tiny things change, and it's almost like a different discordant note in one melody. I mean, there are certain overlaps, obviously, just from playing Hamlet. There are certain notes that you hear, but it's almost like if you listen to a piece of music and then you listen to a different piece of music. If you listen to two pieces of orchestra music, and you can there's different echoes in the room. There's different acoustics, and it's honestly difficult to put into words, to be honest, the difference between them, without just getting really into depth of critiquing people's acting and stuff. But it's just the reaction. How dare you?
Why didn't you put your phone on?
That's all I have. I'm waxing poetic. No, it's just it's fascinating to react to these different Hamlets. I don't want to give too much away about the performances, each one, but it's some moments. There's a lot more fear, or there's a lot more sternness or anger, and other people interpret it more as almost emotional or traumatic. I think the different the big thing is playing with the audience. They're very different. I do think, I won't go into details, but I think, one Hamlet is, more playful and more sort of, it's almost like a cool acceptance of what has manifested for them. And then another one, it's more a constant fear of being surrounded by people and not being alone. And dealing with this loneliness, especially in the line, now I am alone, when you can see all these people in front of them. So it's just fascinating to watch, really.
It's one of those things I really, really enjoy about Shakespeare, is that there's basically, for the vast majority of his characters, there's very little in the text that defines that the character has to be male or female. And it's only in the last 50, 100 years, if that we are starting to explore the ideas of people of genders that aren't the original gender playing those parts. Obviously, in Shakespeare's time, they've all been played by men and boys, but they weren't playing them as men and boys; they were playing them as men and women. Whereas now we're kind of exploring that a bit more, and it's fascinating to watch what kind of nuance and subtlety that brings out, and also richness in the text. When I did Julius Caesar many years ago, I changed Cassius to be a woman, and it completely changes the dynamic of her relationship with Brutus, her relationship with Caesar, but it also makes, in my opinion, it makes it more interesting play and part for her. We have a question for you from Barnaby, which is, what is Hamlet's problem?
What is Hamlet's problem?
What is his problem?
Well, one of the big problems is Hamlet's a very privileged person who has not really, suffered all that much. And I also think you have to look at the dynamics of what royalty is. You can't start being the person you're born to be until your father or your mother dies. Like, you have to just wait for that to happen. You know that's what it is. That's the game. That's the game you're playing. And I think because you set in the 60s, but even I think set in the 1600s, Hamlet went away to university, wanted to go back to university straight after his father's death, and actually it's quite unusual. Also, why was Claudius installed as king when Hamlet's right there? Like, Hamlet would have been old enough to take the crown and didn't, and the fact there's no discussion there of being like, well, shouldn't I be king? Instead it's, can't I go back to university? So I think Hamlet has this big issue of wanting to fight against the roles that have been set up for him, and he has that lovely line, though I'm native here into the manor born, it is a custom more honoured in the breach than observance. I think that line is dripping with, I just hate tradition so much. I just cannot stand it. I hate everything that we're meant to be doing here. I mean, we've cut the Fortinbras stuff, but, he kind of becomes allies with the person who they're meant to not be allies with. And I think that is a big symbol of, I just really don't want to do any of this stuff. This stuff is all stupid. And I think if you take that to the 60s or the 70s, when there were loads and loads of monarchs just disappeared over that time period, and some for better, some for worse. But there was this discussion of, why do we even still have monarchy? What is going on? And so then if you look at Hamlet now, being like, I want to go back to university and continue my studies, and I actually do not care. I don't care that Claudius is in charge. I'm sad about my dad, but whatever, like, I just want to get on with my life. He had the country, whatever. And yeah, I think that's one of the big problems, is then Hamlet's pushed into this revenge plot that he doesn't want to do. Like, he really doesn't want to do. That's why he drags his feet. Because then, and he's always found like, well, no, we have to make sure that the ghost is telling the truth, and we have to be certain, and then suddenly, Claudius gets all upset at the play, and he's like, oh no, I guess that this was true, and I'm going to have to do something. And then he waits, and he doesn't do anything. And then he shoots Polonius. Well, no, we have shoots Polonius, he stabs Polonius in the original play. Obviously, we've updated it to guns. And that really pushes the issue, and you can tell he is just instantly regrets doing anything. And I mean, the first thing certainly our Hamlets. I'm not sure if it's the first thing after the interval in an uncut play, but the first thing is the "now I might do it" Pat speech, where he's like, "I could do it now, but I'm not going to because the time isn't right." And he makes up this whole like ridiculous excuses because he's praying and therefore he won't go to hell. So can't do it now. I'll wait to a point where he isn't praying and he'll definitely go to hell. So he just doesn't want to get involved in this, I think, is the main problem, and he has to. And yeah, and I think if you have that element of he then sees the audience, or she sees the audience, so I'm playing it as a woman. So there's that element of this doesn't matter, none of this matters, and I'm the main character, and what does that say about me if I've been written to be this character and I've been written to treat people this way? Does that make me a good person or a bad person? Or does it matter? Does morality matter? So there's a whole question over that, and that explains this whole tumble into insanity, which is just, I could just do anything, like whatever. Who cares? Like, I probably should get killed for this because I, did do Laertes wrong, and but we're all going to die anyway, and we're not real, so who cares? Like, what's the point? So yeah, that's my kind of garbled excuses. I think Hamlet just doesn't want to be royal.
It's one of the things that really frustrates me about the play. I mean, it is a fantastic play, but I've never had much fondness for it until I started directing it. Is that in any other Shakespeare play where ghosts turn up, they turn up in, in Macbeth, Banquo's ghost turns up in, Act 3?
Yeah.
And then in, like, Caesar, the ghosts turn up in Act 5, or late in Act 4. In Richard III, the ghosts turn up in Act 5. They always turn up at the end. They turn up at the climax of the story, and they're there to facilitate the end, whereas this is the only Shakespeare play that I can think of off the top of my head. I might be missing one. That the ghost turns up at the beginning is actually the catalyst for the rest of the play, and then Hamlet kicks his feet, and the ghost has to come back and remind him, and then Hamlet spends the whole play fighting the idea of doing anything. Barnaby has commented, "That's interesting, thank you." He doesn't want to be the tragic hero in a revenge tragedy, and then he's pivoted to how well does the role of Polonius work played by a woman.
I just want to, before we do Polonius, I want to think about your ghosts comment. The reason why those ghosts don't turn up to the end is because they are the torment. And the ghost in Hamlet can turn up at the beginning because the torment starts early on. The whole point of it is torment, and it's because it's a reflection of Shakespeare being tormented by all the mistakes that he's made, particularly because obviously this was not inspired, but it was born from the death of his own son.
Yeah.
And the fact the father comes by to chide his son to be like, you're not living up to what you need to be, is a reflection of him not, I think, knowing he was never the father he should have been. Even though his son's death wasn't his fault. It's just children got sick back then and they died, but I think he always blamed himself. I think that's very clear within the text, that it's the father figure who says you are not being what I want you to be, and you have to do something to be a better son. And I think there's a lot of that father imagery really highlights how he just feels really guilty.
I wonder if that comes across in Macbeth as well. There is a massive subtext in Macbeth that the Macbeths are either infertile or unable to have children anymore.
Well, definitely at least one child died. Because
yes, exactly.
Lady says she's given suck.
Yeah.
So the child was enough to
And I
breastfeed.
wonder if that was also a reference, or was also Shakespeare. I don't know when in the canon it comes, but I wonder if that was Shakespeare also trying to deal with that. So yes, to go back to Barbara's question about Polonius. So our Polonius is played by the wonderful, the indestructible Tessa Taylor.
Oh, I love Tessa Taylor.
Yeah. And she's fantastic. The moment she stepped into the audition room and delivered the famous speech with all the aphorisms.
Neither a borrower nor a lender be.
Exactly. Costly may thy habit, etc. She was perfect. She was perfect for the part, because Polonius is a blustering. No offence to Tessa, I don't mean it like that. But Polonius is this sort of blustery. Says 10 words when one would do old fool, a tedious old fool, as Hamlet calls her, and her relationship with Ophelia comes across as a lot less patronising and misogynistic than it could do with the male Polonius. Obviously, it depends on the Polonius. but also there is a softness to her that when she does die, you do feel sorry for her, and also she's so endearing to the audience. Whereas sometimes I've seen Poloniuses who can be quite annoying, and you're almost grateful.
Yeah, you want them to die.
But it really, so then it fuels Esme, who plays Ophelia, and it fuels our Laertes, or Laerti.
Laerti.
I choose to do that's the correct pluralisation of Laertes. Into their action and their madness, and then their eventual death. And it really does feel like an emotional climax and an emotional payoff when she does accidentally get it.
Yeah. How do you think on that, Cal? I'll ask you a question in a while, so I'll bounce that question over to you.
Yeah, I think Tessa, it really does bring the role of Polonius. I think, especially before going into this production, Polonius is always my favourite character in the play. And very much, kind of, to be honest, that comes from I do like characters who are kind of pathetic men. And Polonius is such like a pathetic man. And so I love that character, but I always loved it from that interpretation of like, kind of like a bit of a slimy, sort of, slightly Machiavellian, but almost like too silly to be Machiavellian. Like, why hide behind a curtain, man? Like, what are you thinking? But it's been lovely, as much as I love that like character, seeing it change through Tessa. Because I think, as you said, like she's so endearing, to be honest. Tessa is just so naturally likeable on stage. I mean, we all did a play before this, The King's Head, written by Charlotte, where Tessa is Queen Henrietta Maria, and she's quite a cool character. Not the most naturally endearing character. I mean, there's obviously a lot of like depth there, but I do think Tessa is able to sort of get a lot of attachment in her performance. I love seeing Polonius as a woman because it really does change it. I think even if it was played exactly as that sort of stereotype of the pathetic man, it would be changed. Again, I mean, this is the thing about Shakespeare that's great, isn't it? That like the text is so strong that you can play with gender pretty much all you want. I mean, there's very few characters that you can't play with gender or race or so many other things. I mean, obviously like Othello, some come to mind. There's so many characters where you can just play with it. You can do all female interpretations, all male. I mean, obviously they all were all male interpretations in a way originally. Watching Tessa's great. She brings so much comedy to that role.
She's very funny,
which is weird in that role, I think, but like works so weirdly well.
Yeah.
Like when you put like bacon and peanut butter on a sandwich. I've never done that. I don't know where that analogy came from, to be honest. As I was saying it, I was like, this is a weird
Please, if you're watching, please do make a peanut butter and bacon sandwich. Tell us if it works.
Yeah, there's the podcast.
This isn't Blue Peter. Let's end on a last question from the audience.
Attitude to Gertrude change according to who is playing Hamlet?
I think you should answer that as a Hamlet.
I think so. In particular, what I'm thinking of is the bedroom scene. So obviously, the big thing that people always talk about is it's very Oedipal. In that scene, you have Hamlet in his mother's bedroom, stabbing people through curtains with his rapier. And yes, it is. It's very Freudian. And you can play it that way. And I think if you do it as a man, it still always comes off that way. It also, the speech is like, you cannot call it love. For at your age, the heyday of the blood is tame, it's humble. And that is a young man telling his older mother, you can't have sex anymore because you're an old woman now and that's gross. And it has that sexist element to it, it really does.
She also doesn't even have to be that old. Like, she could be...
I mean, she probably isn't. Hamlet's only meant to be like his, what?
Early 20s.
Early 20s?
She could be 39.
If she would probably have been quite young, to be honest. So you usually never get to play that way. So you do think, what are you talking about, Hamlet? Like, and it does come from that idea of, well, you've had your children and you don't have feelings anymore. Old women don't have feelings, and once you get past 30, you're an old woman. So I think, also I don't think Alex does do it exactly like that because it is very different in a modern interpretation of acting and a modern interpretation of the text. But I do think when sort of I'm doing it, it takes on a kind of more pleading note. It's not so much, I'm not trying to dictate to her, this is how you should feel as a woman. It's me saying, please love him. Like, this is weird. It must be, so it can't be love. It can't possibly be love because, this is your brother-in-law. Come on. Is this not weird? And I think it's fighting against that, the idea that I would understand that within society, and this is still something that you see in many societies, not so much Western societies, but many societies, that a woman who has lost her husband loses her worth. And so this would have been within royalty. You still see that in the very upper classes, in the upper echelons of power. Your husband's dead and now you're worthless. So yeah, I do kind of get, as a female Hamlet, why she's like, I've got to go marry a powerful man now. I'm not done having power, so I'm going to do that. And I think I tried to sort of bring that about. It's like, it's not love. I get it, it's not love. Okay, let's just put that to bed. It must be some other power play you're doing, because I'm just not going to believe that you will actually, in your right mind, do this and think, yeah, I'm going to marry my brother-in-law after he's killed my first husband, and maybe I helped, maybe I didn't. So yeah, I think it becomes a lot less kind of patronising, a lot less misogynistic, and that relationship is obviously different, because there is a difference between a mother-daughter relationship and a mother-son relationship. I think children, historically, and maybe still, it's the old adage, son is a son until he takes a wife, but a daughter is your daughter your entire life. And the idea that relationship is expected to last even after they've gone off and got married. And I think you can bring that in a little bit into that. It's like, well, we should still be able to sit in the bedroom and chat. And it also isn't weird that I've come into my mother's bedroom. Because you can imagine that I would just do that all the time for, I don't know, talks about women things. Whereas would the son really go into his mother's bedroom? It's already odd.
In real life, I can count on my hand the amount of times I've gone into my mum's bedroom
for a chat.
Yeah, exactly,
chat about her husband.
Yes,
Yeah, whereas I would regularly go there just to talk and to, I don't know.
Talk about her husband.
Say, well, Mum, because it's weird. My mum also married her brother-in-law after she killed her husband. She didn't. I do want to say it right now. My mum did not do that.
Anyway.
I mean,
She's still young. There's still time.
There's still time. She's only like nearly 70. Like, she can still do that.
Yeah.
Women rule the world.
I think we'll end there.
Actually, I have one more question.
You have one more question.
One more question, which would be a short question. Why should people come and see both? Why should they get the £15 ticket deal? 2 shows, that's £7.50 a show. You literally, and I'm going to say this on record, you cannot get theatre in Canterbury cheaper than that.
Oh,
we had the cheapest tickets in town. And you can't get a better Hamlet than that, because this is very 2 excellent productions. It's not just seeing the same Hamlet twice. You are seeing 2 vastly different productions of the same show. This is not something that happens all the time. So it's a very, very, I think, interesting opportunity, which is setting us up for next year. Wars of the Roses, where you can watch 3 productions in one day, 10 starting at 10 in the morning, finishing at 10 at night.
We're going to need a lot of coffee.
A lot of coffee. We're going to have, deals with restaurants. We really make a whole day event of it. So I think that's one of the reasons why I should come, because when are you ever going to get to do that again? In the wonderful St Thomas's Hall. Elliot, why do you think people should come and see both?
Well, apart from all the reasons that you've given, I think the biggest reason for me is because it's fun. It is a fun production of Hamlet. I mean, it's running over just about 2.5 hours, including the interval, which is one of the shortest Hamlets you're probably going to see.
No 4-hour Branners here.
There's no 4-hour Branners.
Didn't add anything into this.
Well, we added a little bit. We took away so much. But it is also fun. It's not a slog to watch. It's not it's not boring. It is fun and exciting, and it does also subvert expectations in certain ways that you won't necessarily expect, even though it is a play that everybody who knows Shakespeare knows the plot of Hamlet off the back of their hand. There are hopefully surprises in there that will put you on the back foot in a good way.
And Cal, why do you think people should come and see our excellent show? Why should they see it twice?
don't come at all. I'm joking. No, you should come twice because, I mean, obviously the two Hamlets. It's fascinating to see these two interpretations because you are seeing two really incredible and yet very varied, two different Hamlets. And you're also seeing, as I said many times, it's very reactionary to what Hamlet does. So you're seeing sort of a completely different performance from everyone, I would say. I don't think anything stays the same quite. All the performances kind of change along with Hamlet. It's very interesting. In terms of like the play, in the kind that's been done, the adaptation, the form, the setting, it is something that's strong enough that I think you could easily see it twice and get new things out of it, appreciate things more. You know, don't just have one sip of wine, have two, guys. You know, it's the same price as one.
I do think
yeah.
there are only, if I remember rightly, there are only two scenes that don't have either Hamlet or Laertes in. So every other scene is going to be different.
And yet those scenes are still change.
Yes.
The only one I'd say doesn't change is the very first scene. Because the very first scene doesn't have Hamlet or Laertes in. And then there's a scene with Ophelia and Polonius that doesn't have either of them in. But every other scene, but that scene does quite radically change depending on who is playing Hamlet.
Definitely.
So the second night, you can come in 5 minutes late. You've already seen the first scene, and then you just come in and you
Please don't come in late.
Please don't come in late.
I'm in that first scene. Wait, come 5 minutes early.
Just come see Cal once and then.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
But yeah, everything else I think is very, very different. So
once Hamlet dies, there's only one more line, so you can leave there.
Yeah, we don't have the 20 minutes.
That's my line. Why are you just trying to cut me out of this play?
So Horatio's cut. Just one man show of Hamlet, well, 2 man show of Hamlet, I guess. So yes, thank you for joining us on our talk about our upcoming production. We're all very, very excited. I have slowly been shedding fake blood all over my notebook. It's nice and red along here. That's great.
Hamlet is on the 17th and 18th, 24th and 25th of November.
Why are you taking my job?
Because you weren't doing it.
I'm going to do it. Right, so
Hamlet's on the 17th.
What are you doing?
Sorry, I thought it was my
Horatio's cut, the director's cut. So Hamlet is this. It starts next Friday on the 17th of November. It runs on the 18th of November, 24th and 25th. Alex Rose playing Hamlet on the Fridays, and myself, Charlotte Groombridge, playing it on the Saturdays. And remember that ticket deal is £15 for both shows. Also remember, our Band of Brothers discount still applies. So 4 tickets or more, that price goes down to £7.50 each. So please do come along. We'd love to see you there at St Thomas's Church Hall, 7:30.
Tickets are available from the Gulbenkian website or on the door.
Yes, they are. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. They can't.
Yeah.